person. My name is Megan, and I'm actually the volunteer coordinator here. Okay, great. That sounds good. Okay, so, can I just ask, how did you hear about our center? Okay, that sounds good. Yeah, we do try to advertise, in some local, horse magazines and newspapers and Steed Read and that type of thing, so that's good. Yeah, and we also do post flyers, around town, kind of near, grocery stores and libraries and things like that. Right, exactly. Yeah, we do have a website. The website is called freedomreigns.org. Exactly. Yeah, and if you just type in Freedom Reigns into Google, it'll pretty much come up with that, so it'll lead you right to it. Yeah, I just like to tell everyone that because, sometimes after you get off the phone, you want to look everything up and get the forms in front of you and stuff like that, so everything can get squared away. Yeah, so, okay, so yeah, I can definitely answer those questions. Okay, so basically, with therapeutic horseback riding, our center is a PATH certified center, and PATH stands for the Professional Association for Therapeutic Horsemanship International. And yeah, that's pretty much the international organization that sets the safety standards and best practice standards for really this whole industry. Exactly. So we are a PATH accredited center, and we essentially seek to serve individuals who may be experiencing challenges, whether they are presented by a physical disability or emotional challenges. So we definitely treat and work with a wide range of various disabilities. It could be anything from anxiety and panic attacks to PTSD, and we also serve a lot of individuals of many different ages who do live with physical disabilities as well. So that could include cerebral palsy, sometimes Down syndrome, injuries, and then there's a whole other range. We also work with the autism population as well. And then, those who are veterans or people who have suffered a stroke or maybe, experiencing and suffering with depression. So really, there's nothing that I can think of that, some horse time wouldn't be good for, in my opinion. So it's a really, really great program. Yeah, and I can definitely give you some more info about just general volunteering as well. So, essentially the two main roles in which volunteers participate are sidewalking, which is where you literally walk alongside the horse and the rider to make sure that they are staying balanced physically in the saddle and to make sure that they're hearing the directions from the instructor and that they're focusing and paying attention so that they're less Sidewalking may be able to provide what's called an arm over thigh hold, which is where you just literally put your wrist essentially over the middle part of the thigh while holding onto the saddle so that you're really kind of providing a base of support for their center of gravity. That way, even if the horse does a turn or does a circle or stops or goes rather quickly, the person can still stay balanced in the saddle. Yeah, and we really, really rely on our volunteers. We just could not do that. We couldn't operate the way we do without our volunteers. So we are, always seeking to welcome in new volunteers as well as, cherish and keep our old volunteers who've been with us for years. Yeah, and many people, they do stay with us for years because it's just such a fun and rewarding way to volunteer, honestly. Exactly, yeah. Okay, yeah, so the second form that people volunteer in, sometimes it does require the volunteers to have a lot of previous horse experience. So I'm not sure whether you might have that. Do you have previous riding experience? Okay, well that's good to know. Exactly. Yeah, a lot of people are kind of in that situation where, they might not be super familiar with horses, but they have ridden a couple times. Exactly, yeah. Well, it's good to know that you're comfortable around horses for sure, yeah. And, okay, yeah, so to explain more about that role, the reason why we require that people have a lot of previous horse experience is because the horse leader or the horse handler, whichever you'd like to call them, they need to be able to handle the horse safely in an emergency situation. So it's really, really important that that person is extremely comfortable with handling horses with, different personalities, different builds, different conformations, and really different behaviors, because even though we are working with therapeutic horses who are, specially selected and trained for this type of work, they are still horses, and they are, in the wild, they're actually prey, so they have a as in Frank, R as in Rick, T as in Tom, R as in Rick.org. Yeah, that just stands for, Freedom Reigns Therapeutic Riding.org. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, we're pretty straightforward with the abbreviations. Exactly. Okay. Alright, and then what's the best phone number to reach you on? Okay. Yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah, and our phone number here is 555-685-0003. Yes, and I definitely encourage you, just don't even hesitate. If you ever have any questions, please feel free to always shoot me an email or call at any time. Yeah, exactly. Well, frequently what happens is I'll be down in the barn getting, the horses tacked up or something, so we do tend to miss messages sometimes, but if you, just leave us a voicemail, we'll get right back to you, so it shouldn't be a problem. Yeah, usually like the same day, works out pretty well. Okay. Yeah, no, that's good to know. Okay. Yeah, so the beginning age limit to volunteer is 14 years old. And usually, like, the entry, position is that of a sidewalker. Yeah, we absolutely provide the training for that role. Exactly. Yeah. Oh, great. Okay, so, yeah, I can definitely give you some information on that. We do have a volunteer training coming up. Let me just grab my papers for that. 1 second, please. Okay. Whoops. Okay, so we do have a training coming up. It's going to be on June 11th. And that's going to be from 2 to 5 p.m. Do you think you could make that one? Okay, that would be so excellent because, the next one that we're going to have isn't going to be for another month. Yeah, we usually do them about once a month. So it's great that you can make it for this one because, otherwise having to wait a month, it can be a little bit tricky. Yeah, exactly. Okay. Yeah, and that's going to be a Saturday. Exactly, yeah. Oh, okay. Well, in terms of parking, usually what I'll do is I'll send out an email like a couple days in advance, and I'll just include details about parking. There is free parking for sure. We do have kind of like a gravel lot in front of our facility, and everyone can park there. Exactly. Okay, right. So when you come in for the training, basically the structure of it is first we just have a check-in, and I get to meet everyone who I've talked with on the phone and emailed and stuff like that, and we get everyone signed in and we get everyone's contact information. And then I just make sure that everyone has their completed paperwork in. So that usually takes about 20 or 25 minutes because people tend to, forget certain sheets of the paperwork. So I really do reserve that time for kind of playing catch up with that. Then the next step is to have everyone, sit down, relax, grab a drink of water, and we will watch a DVD that kind of explains the basics about volunteering at a therapeutic riding center. And I think it's a great way to kind of be open to it because it really shows the different roles and the dynamics that volunteers can have with the riders, and it gives you an idea of what's expected of you as a volunteer, without facility tour, and I'll show everyone the indoor arena that we had built a few years ago. I'll show everyone the main office, and then we will go down to the barn just to take a tour of the tack room, which is where we have all the equipment for the horses, and then we'll go through the barn, and I'll give everyone the full tour. After that point, what we usually do is we break up into two groups, and I'll have the horse leaders stay down in the barn with me, and then I'll have the sidewalkers go up to the main office, and they'll usually train with our other instructor. And they'll learn about the details of sidewalking, and then the horse leaders will kind of get a demo in tacking, because we do use some specialty equipment, and it's really important that everyone tacks all the horses in the exact same way, because for the horses, therapeutic riding can actually be a really difficult job, because they are being handled by so many different people every day. So it's really important that they're handled consistently the same way each time, just to really reduce that element of stress, because they do kind of have a stressful job. Yeah, well, they're just, they have their own personalities, and they need their own downtime, and they just work so hard, and they work with so many people every single day, and they're expected to constantly be on this great behavior, but you know what, at the end of the day, they're still horses, and they still, have their own personalities and reactions, and they kind of need their own space sometimes, just to relax and recharge. Yeah, so after that point, we will go into the indoor arena, all of us, including the sidewalkers and the leaders, and then we're going to do a hands-on training where we literally have other volunteers who are, more experienced. They'll actually pretend to be riders so that the new volunteers can practice the different types of holds on the riders, and that way when they come in for their very first lesson in the real lesson environment, they'll be able to feel more confident and empowered, and they'll know what's expected of them, and they'll know what the directions mean and stuff like that. So yeah, so that's why I was saying that there'd be a lot of information kind of thrown at you, because there's so much, and it takes a little while to sink in, but I promise you will get it. Yeah, it'll come to you, I swear, yeah. It usually takes people like a few weeks to settle in. Right. Okay, well that's good to know. Oh, you do? Okay. Okay, and what's your friend's name? Yeah, I can write that down. Yep, I can send her an email as well. I can keep her, copied on the same email. Okay, and then the phone number. Okay, yeah. That is great. Sounds good. Okay, so I'll probably shoot her an email and then give her a call as well, just because the email kind of includes the basic info, but as I'm sure you've gathered, the call is a little bit more detail oriented. Okay. Oh yeah, and then what's her email address? Okay. QUICKVER. Okay, and then what address is that at? Gmail. Okay. That sounds great. Okay, so I'll just repeat it back to you. It's quicksilver@gmail.com. Okay, excellent. Good. Yeah, so I will, I'll CC her on the same email that I send you. I'll usually just send it out to every new volunteer who calls in and requests. And that email is going to include general information about our writing semesters, and it's just going to include the steps on how to apply. So what we do is I include all the paperwork as attachments to the email, and there are a few that way we just have your emergency contact information. And then after that, for people who are over the age of 18, we do require a background check. So there is that paperwork included as well. Those who are ages 14 through 17, however, we do a reference form. So someone who is unrelated to that person, whether they're a coach or a teacher or a boss, they can fill out a reference for them, and that will kind of go in place of their background check. Right, exactly. And then the last thing I include is the volunteer handbook. Now, I know it's got a lot of pages, but don't be scared. You don't have to print all that out as long as you read it, though, online. The only page that I need back from that is the very last page saying that you have read it and you've signed off on it and you've understood it. So, I usually will just like print the very last page, and that way, you can just, save some paper and keep that printing down to a minimum if you prefer. Yes, yeah, hopefully, do try to give everything to me in a complete packet. It's a little bit harder if the forms come in individually, so either, just send them in to me in a complete packet, or, you can also scan them to me and email them back. That tends to work well for a lot of people. And then the last option would be to just bring everything in on the date of the volunteer training, so this Saturday would be good. Yeah, as long as everything gets into me, I'm happy. It's all good. Right. Okay, so do you have any other questions? Okay, yeah, well, if you do have a friend who might be interested in being a participant or a rider, yes, they can absolutely apply as well. We're currently scheduling riders for our summer semester, which is right around the corner, so definitely encourage them, if possible, to get in their paperwork soon. But the paperwork for that is available online on our website. Yeah, it's exactly the one I gave you before. And if they go on like the left-hand side, if they go to rates and forms, it'll include just PDFs of all the different forms that they need. And again, it's like, I believe for new writers, it's about 5 forms. So you can just have them, open those up, print those out, and, get that complete packet back into us as well. Right, exactly. And once we get the packet, what we do is we read through and we make sure that, the type of disability that they may have is suitable for riding, because sometimes people have conditions that are unsafe for riding, unfortunately, but in some instances where it might be unsafe to physically ride, we can have people do unmounted work where they're working on the ground with the horse and they're not actually riding, so sometimes that's a more appropriate activity. We also have classroom-based learning experiences, so that is also great for those who want to just expand their knowledge about horses and learn more. Yeah, that's actually a really fun class. I've kind of sat in on it a few times, and and gotten to hear what they're talking about. Exactly, yeah. So after that stage, we have them come in for an assessment, and one of our PATH certified instructors will sit down with them and talk about their needs and their goals and what they want to work on and how we can really best help them to do that. And then during that time, we will think about for the future which horse they might be a good match with. And that way, when they're scheduled, we know who to pair them with and everything, and it's a little bit easier for us in the scheduling process. And then once that's all set, we will send out a confirmation to them explaining which day and time they'll be riding, and we do offer classes only once a week to each individual because we do have about 80 riders right now. So yeah, that's a lot of riders and a lot of volunteers that way, because if you picture each rider, they each need one horse leader, so that's one volunteer. And then many of our riders actually need two sidewalkers, one on each side of the horse. So that sometimes that means there's 3 volunteers for only one rider. And yeah, that volunteer count can really go up when you have a group lesson going on, and there can be anywhere from like 3 or 4 riders, and then you have all these volunteers, and yeah, it gets really busy, but it is really fun. It is. Yeah. Yeah, it's a blast. The time just flies by, and you know, you get to be outdoors, you get to get exercise, and it's just a great way to you know, be able to work with horses for free, basically, as a volunteer. Yeah, I really like it as well. Okay, cool. Well, you know, just give me a call back if you ever have any questions for the future. I know it was kind of a long phone call, but I hope I answered your questions. If you have any other